There was a time when we believed it couldn't happen again. After the atrocities of the past, we swore never again. We thought we had learnt from the ashes of history, but as the decades passed, we grew complacent, blind to the seeds of hate growing around us. And then, the world broke. It wasn't a sudden fall, it was slow, insidious. A conflict here, a war there. As old grudges and new ideologies fused into something monstrous, leaders rose with promises of salvation. But they were nothing more than merchants of fear and division. And as nations tore each other apart, it became clear this wasn't just another war, it was an extermination, a global holocaust. The destruction swept through every corner of the world, entire cities vaporized in an instant, families erased, the air itself became toxic, thick with the smoke of burning civilizations. No one was spared, not the wealthy, not the powerful, and not the innocent. The concept of survival became cruelly ironic, as those who lived now wandered through a planet devoid of life, devoid of meaning. The ones who could have stopped it, the governments, the influencers, the tech titans, they all stood idle, too consumed by greed or too convinced that it wouldn't touch them. By the time they realised their mistake, it was far too late. The collapse was total, humanity's final act of self-destruction. The faint sound of rubble shifting, but in the wreckage of this once vibrant world, not everyone perished. Some survived, a scattered few clinging to life in the shadows of a world they no longer recognised. Among them is one man, walking alone through these ruins. His name is Marcus. Marcus wasn't a soldier or a hero. He didn't fight for survival, he simply endured. In the chaos, in the endless nights filled with fire and death, Marcus learned to disappear, to stay unseen. While the world tore itself apart, Marcus hid in the cracks, watching the collapse from the fringes, helpless to stop it. Now he walks through what's left, the last man standing in a world stripped of humanity. His survival wasn't born of hope, but of necessity. His days blur together, each one as empty as the last. He walks through the remnants of a shattered civilization, broken buildings, twisted metal, and streets that were once filled with life, but are now silent, save for the hollow winds. Marcus survives, not because he has something to live for, but because survival has become his only truth. In his mind there is a constant battle, memories of the life he once knew, the people he loved, the normalcy that was ripped away. They all haunt him like fading shadows. He remembers them less clearly now. Time has dulled their edges, blurred their faces, but they are still there, lingering in the quiet moments, in the spaces between his thoughts. The weight of those memories presses down on him, yet Marcus continues, not out of hope, not out of defiance, but because there is nothing else. His world is gone, his purpose lost. His existence is now one of simple, monotonous survival, step by step through a landscape that mirrors his inner emptiness. Each step leads to nowhere, but still he walks. He is a ghost of the old world, wandering through the ruins of a future that never came. Each day he wakes, and each day he walks. No destination, no plan, just the sheer will to survive, even as the world around him crumbles further into oblivion. This is Marcus, a man who survived the end, but now lives in a world that no longer has anything left to offer. A world where survival itself is the only rebellion left, and so he walks into the endless, desolate future. This world Marcus walks through isn't just a wasteland of rubble and ruin, it's a place filled with dangers that go beyond the decay. In the final days of humanity, when the world descended into chaos, it wasn't only the people who unleashed destruction. Mechanized forces once built to protect turned against their creators, cold, unfeeling. They were the perfect weapons in a war that spiraled out of control. These machines, programmed for efficiency, played a crucial role in the end. As the world burned, AI-driven war machines became ruthless enforcers of annihilation. Precision-guided drones, robotic infantry, and autonomous tanks. Once tools of war, now they've become relics of the apocalypse. But not all of them were destroyed in the blast. Some still remain, lurking in the shadows, dormant, waiting. Marcus stumbles upon one now, half buried in the rubble. Motionless and silent, it almost blends into the landscape. It's a machine, large, sleek, and still, as if time itself forgot it. But he knows better. His heart quickens. He recognizes it for what it is, a relic of war, a remnant of the AI forces that once hunted men like prey. It's a sentry bot, programmed for reconnaissance and lethal precision, built to last, built to kill. He freezes in place, lowering his breath. For a moment he hopes it's dead, that the machine has long since powered down, never to awaken again. But as his eyes scan its sleek, armoured surface, he notices faint flickers of the light within its frame. The hum grows louder. The pulse races as dread seeps into his chest. He knows what happens if it activates. These machines weren't built to understand mercy or restraint. They followed their programming without question, and that programming hasn't changed. Marcus has heard stories, rumours of survivors who triggered old warbots, only to be hunted down in the ruins and vaporised in a flash of gunfire and light. Carefully, Marcus takes a step back, his movement slow, deliberate. He knows that even the smallest sound, the slightest vibration, could be enough to bring the machine to life. His mind races, weighing his options, but there's no easy escape. The street is narrow, the rubble thick, and now there's the chilling possibility that he's already too close, and it's already sensed his presence. Marcus's breath catches in his throat as he realises just how fragile the line is between survival and death in this broken world. It's not just the ruins or the emptiness that threaten him, it's the things humanity left behind, the relics of war, the machines that prowl these wastelands, ready to finish what they started. He can't run, he can't fight it, all he can do is hope that today the machine doesn't wake up. The echo disturbed the stillness, a scuff of boots on concrete. The Terminator's sensors, dormant for years, detected the faintest signature of heat, the unmistakable pulse of human life. The air stirred as the long dormant circuits deep within its metallic skull began to hum, slowly waking, triggered by the presence that it had been programmed to eliminate. Mechanical clicks echoed through the chamber as its limbs, frozen for so long, began to twitch, releasing faint clouds of dust with each movement. The sound of grinding gears and whirring servos slowly escalated as the machine came to life, each joint creaking as it flexed, shedding years of stillness. Through the twisted remains of a shattered cityscape, a malnourished boy crawled from the wreckage of a nearby building, his skin's pale, clinging tightly to his bones. Clothes hung in tatters, remnants of a world long since destroyed. Dirt streaked his face, but it was his shallow eyes, wide and searching, that told the true story of hunger and survival. He moved cautiously, weak legs struggling to carry him over the debris-strewn ground, jagged pieces of concrete and steel cut into his feet, but he barely felt the pain anymore. The world had been this way for so long, silent, broken and deadly. His senses had dulled to the ever-present danger around him. Above the sky, choked with ash, a heavy, dull, perpetual grey. His lungs burnt with every breath of the toxic air, but the boy pressed on, drawn towards something, a faint sound he thought he had heard. The air had shifted, a vibration too subtle for most, but to him it was a sign of movement, a promise of life, or at the very least, something worth scavenging. He emerged from behind the remains of a crumbled wall, eyes squinting against the dim light filtering through the smoke-filled air. Ahead, he saw the machine, and he saw Marcus, The hulking skeletal, slowly rising machine. His young mind didn't register the danger. Curiosity was stronger than caution, stronger than the memories of stories whispered in the shadows about killing machines. He crept forward, his heart quickening in his frail chest, unaware of the deadly thing stirring to life before him. The robot stood upright now, fully awakened, its towering metallic frame casting an imposing silhouette against the wreckage. Dust drifted off its form as it straightened, each movement deliberate and precise. Its head tilted slightly, locking onto the malnourished boy and Marcus, the man whose presence had triggered its reawakening. The machine's foot shifted forward with a solid echoing thud, sending vibrations through the cracked ground beneath it. With each step, gears turned smoothly, long dormant servos humming as the Terminator's relentless gaze fixed on its targets. It moved with the cold efficiency of a predator that had never forgotten its purpose. Unhurried but unstoppable, Marcus stumbled backward in terror. His breath caught in his throat. The machine's sudden movement had been like a nightmare coming to life before his eyes. Panic surged through him as he tried to get away, his boot catching on the broken ground beneath. He tumbled, arms flailing as he fell hard into the rubble-strewn floor. He scrambled to push himself up. Eyes wide with disbelief, his heart pounded in his chest as he glanced up at the machine, which was now closing the distance with mechanical precision, its footfalls echoing like the slow tolling of a death knell. The boy, oblivious to the horror, stood frozen in place, his malnourished frame trembling, eyes wide with childlike curiosity instead of fear. Marcus's voice cracked as he tried to shout a warning, but the words tangled in his throat. His mind raced. There was no time, no way to outrun it. The Terminator was coming, inexorable and unyielding, each step closing the gap between them, a harbinger of death, from a past neither of them could escape. The robot's head is designed as a deadly turret, resembling a high-tech, sleek, mechanical apparatus rather than a traditional head. It houses advanced sensors that constantly scan its surroundings for any signs of danger or unauthorized movement. When the robot detects a threat, whether through heat signatures, motion, or other advanced detection systems, the turret swivels with unnerving speed, instantly locking onto the source of the perceived threat. The motion is smooth yet mechanical, a rapid, fluid rotation of the head that can cover a 360-degree radius in a split second. Once the turret locks onto the target, its next action is immediate and efficient, activating its integrated weaponry. The turret becomes a weaponized hunting mechanism, relentless and precise, with the guns or energy projectiles primed to neutralize the threat. The robot doesn't hesitate. Its response is cold, calculated and deadly. Every turn of the turret is synchronized with its internal logic, prioritizing tasks based on proximity, size and hostility. Once locked on, it begins to hunt, its body moving with the same mechanical efficiency, driven by an artificial intelligence that knows no empathy or hesitation. The turret scans it continuously during the hunt, ensuring that any movement is immediately accounted for and the target has little chance of escape. The boy is gasping for air, his ribs visible beneath his thin shirt. But Marcus knows they can't stop. Not yet. The robot doesn't tire, it doesn't falter. Every step they take, every breath they draw, is borrowed time as they weave through the shadows, but Marcus knows the robot will adapt. Its sensors are too advanced, its tracking too precise. They are not escaping a machine, they are running from death itself. The boy stumbles, his legs giving out from the exhaustion. Suddenly a sharp, shrill sound pierces the air, something different from the mechanical whine of the robot. Marcus glances upwards and his heart sinks. Above them, dark shapes move against the dusty sky. Drones, small and nimble, buzzing like vultures circling their prey. The awakening of the robot must have triggered them. Now they have more than one enemy. The drones descend, their sleek forms glinting in the pale light as they swarm towards Marcus and the boy. The sensors sweep the ground, searching for heat, for movement, anything that will lead them to their quarry. Marcus knows they are out of options. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. Without thinking, Marcus drops to the ground, pulling the boy into the hollow of his chest, his arms wrapped protectively around the boy's trembling frame, sheltering him from the sight of the machines. They huddle together, trying to become invisible against the barren earth. The boy is shaking, his thin body pressed tightly against Marcus as they lie there, utterly exposed in the open wasteland. The robot's heavy footsteps grow louder, its turret head scanning the landscape with cold, mechanical precision. The drones circle lower, then sensors humming as they sweep the ground, their shadows flitting across Marcus and the boy. Every second feels like an eternity. Marcus holds his breath, tightening the grip on the boy, praying they won't be seen. He can feel the boy's rapid heartbeat against his chest, his small hands gripping Marcus's jacket in silent terror. The drones hover just above them now, the whirring of the engines deafening in the stillness. Marcus clenches his jaw, every muscle tensed, knowing that even if one of the drones spots them, it's over. He glances sideways, watching the robot as its turret swivels again, scanning for any sign of life, ready to attack at the slightest movement. The boy lets out a small frightened whimper, and Marcus pulls him closer, his hand gently covering the boy's head. He whispers something, words he doesn't even remember, trying to calm the child, to hide the terror in his own voice. The cold wind sweeps across the wasteland, carrying with it the sound of machines, of death hunting them down. They wait, huddled together, cowering beneath the gaze of the relentless machines, hoping against hope that somehow the machines will pass them by. Marcus knew they were out of time. The low hum of the drones filled the air as they circled closer, their metallic bodies slicing through the sky like predators zeroing in on prey. The robot's heavy, grinding footsteps echoed louder now, closing in from behind, its turret swiveling with deadly precision. There was no cover, no hope, just the endless wasteland stretching before them, and the deathly hum of the machines stalking them. He had to make a choice. He couldn't die here, not with the boy. Summoning the last of his strength, Marcus pulled the trembling boy to his feet. "We have to run," he whispered, his voice tight with fear and exhaustion. The boy looked at him with wide, tear-filled eyes, too weak to speak, but he nodded. Together they started sprinting, their footsteps uneven and desperate against the cracked earth. Marcus could feel his legs burning, each step slower than the last, but the fear driving him forward was stronger than the pain. The robot sensors locked onto them, the turret spinning with terrifying speed as it recalibrated for a fresh attack. Drones buzzed overhead, lowering, closing in. The wasteland was an open grave, and Marcus knew they couldn't outrun this. His legs faltered, his chest tightening, as he felt despair creeping into his bones. They were too slow, too weak, too exposed. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, something shifted in the distance, an unnatural movement. Too fast to be human. Before Marcus could fully process what was happening, a figure burst out from the shadows of a ruined structure. It moved with speed that was unnatural, terrifying. The figure was humanoid, but its movements were far too fluid and precise, as if every muscle and joint was driven by something beyond human capacity. It was an AI, an advanced model, humanoid in shape but unmistakably artificial. Its sleek, battle-worn body glinted in the dim light, moving with purpose, each step calculated and swift. Marcus froze for a heartbeat, clutching the boy tightly, unsure if this new machine was another threat, another predator hunting them down. But the AI wasn't focused on them. It charged toward them with inhuman speed, dust and debris scattering in its wake. But its gaze wasn't locked on Marcus or the boy. It was fixated on the towering robot behind them. The AI seemed almost hypnotized by its target, its movements singular in purpose. Marcus could feel the air change as the humanoid AI closed the distance, its sleek form cutting through the wasteland like a missile. Marcus watched in disbelief, frozen in place as the AI barreled past them, its eyes locked onto the massive robot. The ground trembled as the two machines hurtled towards one another, one driven by cold programming, the other by something deeper, something darker. Marcus didn't understand it, but it was clear. The humanoid was hunting the robot, not them.